Come on up, your microphone's there. Take a seat, enjoy.
Hello. Thank you very much for being here because it's a long day, I know, exhausting a bit. But let's try to focus because we have a great speakers in the panel. We should communicate effectively with the stakeholders. As you know, the story is really important in the startup VC ecosystem. So let's invite here Adam Durita, Investment Manager 0100, Eric Vobis, Operations and Finance Manager, ENB New Ventures, and Sarah McMahon, Operating Partner, Keen Venture Partners. So we're all set up, but what is the setup of your funds? So maybe we can start presenting each other and a few words about the funds you're operating in.
Sure. So hello all, my name is Adam. I'm from 0100. I'm in the role of the investment manager. A little bit about myself and the fund. So at the fund, I'm doing a little bit of everything, but mainly along 4 key pillars. The first being the investment process, so everything from pipeline generation, screening, due diligence, deal making, then portfolio management, so management of the overall portfolio, like reporting, insight, analytics, also portfolio supervision. So we have 27 companies. 13 of them have the pleasure of seeing me on the boards. Then I also am really dabbling in fund level operations, so all the way from LP reporting, audits. In our fund 1, we have institutional LP EIF, so there is lots of reporting and lots of audits, and also cash flow management. And along with all of these activities, I'm also dabbling a lot in changing our processes, making us more efficient, more effective, and being a better VC fund. As a fund, we are not only a fund, so we start as a venture builder, building different complementary innovation businesses ranging from conference business, co-works, then startup conferences, VC Academy, among others. And then we pivoted and started VC funds. So right now we have 2. The first one, Zero Gravity Capital, mainly investing into Central European companies. This fund is done, 24 investments, 1 exit so far, hopefully many more to come. And then we have Fund 2, 0100. Thesis is investing into Eastern Europe and into MENA and building a bridge in between these 2 regions, mostly pre-seed, seed investments, and sectorally agnostic.
Yes. So I'm Eric. I'm Operations and Finance Manager of ENBW New Ventures. I'll keep it short and call ourselves ENV today to make it a bit easier for everyone. I think it's too long. But it works quite good. We are a single LP corporate venture capital firm. ENBW is our corporate backer, which is a German utility active in Germany and Europe as well. So we have quite a special setup, I guess, as a CVC. So we try to be separate as possible. We are 100% subsidiary of ENBW. But we are a separate legal identity. Our main goal is to deliver a financial return while still keeping the strategical aspect of a CVC in the back of our heads. We focus on Series A plus investments. We are active since 2015, and we operate a fund or we do have committed capital of 100 million, so we are a smaller VC, just a tiny bit smaller than the billion funds before. Yeah. And exactly, we focus on making infrastructure more digital and sustainable. So we do have a quite niche focus. Our operations team consists of 3 persons, so we cover all the operations, data, and finance stuff. We have 15 plus minus headcount in general, and our responsibilities are all the audit process, valuation stuff, all the finance related stuff, and of course all the giving insights with reports stuff to different stakeholders. So that's why I'm up here today.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm operating partner, CFO in Keen Venture Partners. We are based in Amsterdam and London, and we have 2 funds with 270 million capital. We invest in a thesis basis, so current thesis themes are FinOps, productivity, AI, defense tech, but in the past we've done sector agnostic, anything from cybersecurity to B2B SaaS to fintech. We invest from the seed stage to Series A and B. Personally, I'm CFO, so I'm involved in our valuations, our investor relations, our reporting, audit, tax, but also working with portfolio companies and helping them set up their reporting, especially at the earlier stage where that's not in place. And then also lots of investor relations and stakeholders and some legal structuring as well. I'll keep it short.
Great. So right now we know who we are. We can start the crafting of the story. And I have a question first to Adam. How do you approach crafting a compelling narrative, the data you collect? And what's your strategy for presenting complex data in a way that resonates with different types of stakeholders?
Right, so maybe before we get to actually crafting the narrative itself, how we approach this is usually purpose-driven. So we identify the different stakeholders and the different needs that these stakeholders have. We then combine it with the wants, because usually when something needs to be presented, it's either a need or the obligation that you might have from the relationship or from kind of the business setup you have with your stakeholders. And there is a want, right? And want meaning that there is some information you might only want to convey to these stakeholders rather than needing. So firstly, we are thinking whether it's a need or a want. Then we are thinking about the form, whether there is a required form or whether it's more free form. And when it's more free form, whether there is already some best practice on the market which we can take in order to get to it or not. So this is how we start. Then another key aspect that we go into, and it's I would say, really thin balance. On one hand, it's about understanding the stakeholders, because each of these stakeholders, they have their own motivations, expectations, needs. And unless you really understand it, you can't really create a good narrative and create a good story. On the other hand, you have your own narrative, your own story that you have, or your own thesis as a fund, or that thesis doesn't only relate to how you invest, but also how you operate and how you conduct yourself in the business. And this thesis, ideally, you shouldn't bend it too much in order to fit into the needs and wants of the different stakeholders. So for us, it's a balance about keeping our narrative and how we conduct ourselves, and on the other hand, what the stakeholders are expecting of us. And then we go one by one, dependent on what is the channel or what is the need. So, for example, we would create a different kind of narrative for even for a single type of stakeholder, right? So let's say the stakeholder is the LP. So on the need side, we would have, let's say, quarterly reporting that would be necessary for the fund to operate. So there we would approach the narrative a little bit different than if we were sending a newsletter, because that's more a want type of activity for us.
So the type the type and the content is important. Eric, what is your opinion on?
I think I want to go one step before Adam, and thinking about the stuff why crafting a narrative is important. I think we talked a lot about data and getting insights today, and how the setup is, how the tools work, but we haven't talked about how to present the data. We'll come back to that later, I think, in another question. But I think we all want to have or make decisions fast, right? And we want to make valuable decisions. So I think it's crucial to have a story around your data, and not just delivering information or just calculating some metrics. So I think you need to combine it with your own mission and vision as a fund. And I also believe you said it. Of course, you want to tell a story, and as a fund, it might be delivering financial return and showing good valuations, but you need to keep it 100% transparent. So I think that's one big part of crafting a narrative, or the boundaries of crafting a narrative around data. So I think all in all, it's about making the right decisions, making faster decisions, and how to underline that with a story is all the simple stuff, right? picking the key metrics, having your own color code. Ideally, it's growth is green and not red, right? It's so simple stuff, but it's important to state again because we see so much reporting and there's no story around it, and the reader of reports loses attention after probably 10 seconds if there isn't some kind of story around it. And this includes also not only having the key metrics, but also focusing on high lowlights and all this stuff.
Great, thank you. After crafting the story, we should tell the story to the audience. So let's start the second question with Sarah. How do you tailor your presentations based on the audience, whether it's LPs, investors, or internal teams? Could you share an example where adjusting your communication strategy helped clarify key insights?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a venture fund, data and insights are all we have, really, at the moment. You know, it's patient capital in many ways. You know, our investors are waiting 5, 10 years for returns. So in that period in between, they need updates, they need reliable information, and they need some insights from us. So I think it very much depends. We do all the Invest Europe and regular updates on revenue growths and TVPI and RVPIs and all of that. But also it depends on their stage at a point in time. So what we really look at, early on in the fund, they want to know our deal flow metrics. So we give them geographical updates, number of deals we look at, and how we move them along the funnel. So we really bring them on our investment process and show them all of that. And then I think when you're past the investment stage, they also want to know, cash flow projections, when they need to draw down their money, when our cadence of investments, all that information. And then later on in the investment cycle, it's more focused on exits and, what's the M&A market looking like rather than the investment market. So it's really, we try to make it a little bit smart. So at that point in time, you want specific information tailored to them. On an internal point of view, we actually shifted our focus a little bit when we looked at data from, we only did in our first fund, Series A and above. And then we were noticing, valuations were changing, we're shifting, and, the consensus was we needed to go earlier. So our whole investment strategy changed for Fund 2, where we now do seed and even pre-seed and kind of accelerators, because the market was showing us that we needed to get in earlier, we needed to find entrepreneurs sooner. And then you also have to craft that story to investors as well to get the buy-in from them. So changing our investment strategy was a big one, I think.
Great, thank you. Eric, what's your opinion?
I think, Adam, you did quite a good starting speech here because I wanted to talk about information need as well when it comes to tailoring presentations. So I think before setting up a report or changing a report, questioning a report, you need to really think about what's the real need of the stakeholders, and it differs a lot, right? You don't have the same need for the investment team, and you don't have the same need for the startups and the LPs or the corporate backer. So you have to ask yourself, what's the real need to make the good and valuable decisions? And the need often differs from the supply which is given, if we do it like we are being told today, we do have the supply of data. That's another point. And then you have, as a third perspective, you have this demand of the investors or the LPs or the investment guys. So I think it's a pretty simple concept to look at it like that. But I don't believe it's done on a regular basis in operations, and I think it's important. So if you imagine those like 3 circles, you have the need, you have the supply, and you have the demand, and you put them together, and you think about the intersection. That's where you want your report to be, right? And I bet if we all do it, including ourselves, you always have the shift of this report. Moving to the demand of information, and then you need to ask yourself, you need to talk with the stakeholder about it. You demand those informations. Why do you want to see it? You need to get the background to it, and why the information is demanded. So I think simplification is quite a good word to use there, because of course you can create reports with 30 pages of tables, yeah, and just mark some key metrics. But you need to question yourself, is the information needed? And is my report in this intersection of those three circles? So for ourselves, we try to, we call it here reports and presentations, but we of course try to use tools and customizable dashboards where it's easy to create the fitting report for the audience you want to talk to, so for the stakeholder. So we are doing a lot of stuff in Power BI right now, where it's quite customizable, and keep the manual stuff, of course, as low as possible, while creating all those reports. Some reports you just need to create, right, for the LPs, and it's just the work and you do it. So, of course, but I think that's a crucial point, to challenge yourself and get to talk to the stakeholders and evaluate if the information is needed and demanded.
So basically different formats for different stakeholders. Adam?
Yeah, I just want to add to it, like Eric is completely right in this, and that, you know, you need to talk to the stakeholders, and the reporting or preparing presentations in general, whatever type of communication you have towards the stakeholders, it's an evolving process. So it should definitely not stay static, even though some forms may stay static. For example, the quarterly reports, most likely, even though the contents will probably change a little bit depending on the life cycle, part of the life cycle you are currently in. But like generally speaking, if you are, let's say, also preparing it under Invest Europe, probably these reports won't be then different for the whole 10 years of your fund, right? But on the other hand, if you are having any other type of communication with the LPs, or it can be other investors, it can be portfolio companies or internal team, this will probably evolve by the needs, how you communicate with them, and, you know, finding what's the right balance between what they need and what you actually can give and what is efficient for you. And also maybe one more key thing to realize here is the level of sophistication, because I think when you are crafting a narrative or putting together a report, I mean, you can put in whatever inside based on the data you have available or the tools you are using, but what is really crucial to realize is, you know, how sophisticated that person is, who is on the other side, who has to digest that kind of narrative.
Great, thank you. So let's stay with you for the next question. Right now we have the story, we have the audience, and now it's time for a bit of shifts. So can you share a real-world example where the insights derived from analytics led to a strategic shift or actionable decision within your firm or a portfolio company?
Definitely, yes. I think the biggest shift that has occurred, at least for us, in the recent year was definitely when we started fundraising our Fund 2. The strategy back then was emerging Europe focus and some opportunistic Middle Eastern investments, because we were active there, we were flying there, there were not so many VCs, the market was warming up, Saudi was opening, so we're like, okay, let's put it in there, let's try to go for it, maybe we can raise some cash in MENA as well. And we got pretty strict feedback from the LPs, also from the people in the ecosystem, like, okay, like, what is this strategy? Why is there emerging Europe focus? Why is there a small fund of fund compartments? And on top of that, there is some Middle Eastern strategy. Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why are you guys doing this? Like, I know that you guys are flying there, but why does this make sense? So we did some research. We have talked a lot. We have discussed with many stakeholders, being LPs, being other investors, being startups. And we started realizing that, okay, this strategy actually might be a large part of the overall strategy we are going for in our fundraise. And to that effect, through certain analytical methods and through data collection, we have prepared a framework of how to better present this strategy to the stakeholders. So for us, what that meant was firstly the, let's call it like external market research, which showed why connecting Middle East and Eastern Europe actually makes sense, and it was heavily, it was full of data, and basically it crafted the narrative of seeing like why the opportunity is there. On the other hand, we created a validation framework for the first close, so there were several steps that we needed to take, and we were validating these steps as we were closer to the first close. For us, those steps were that we seen the best deal flow or we see quality deal flow from Eastern Europe, that we have scaled some of our portfolio companies to Middle East, that we have invested into Middle East, that we have partnered with the local accelerator ecosystem players, early stage VCs, and also that we have opened an office, and also that we have created a venture partner network and advisory board. And then on top of it, we really heavily summarized our previous activities in the region. And this is how basically we have shifted the narrative and part of the strategy based on the insights we have gotten as a feedback from the LPs and from the investors on the market.
Great example, Eric. Can you share another one with us?
Yes, I would like to focus on the performance side of startups, where we completely changed our first impression, and which revealed that simplification, after all, isn't probably not the right thing to just stay focused on, but sometimes you need to go into more detail. It was a company, of course, as a Series A investor, we love recurring revenue. So the delta in recurring revenue, monthly delta, quarterly delta, yearly delta, is always one of the growth metrics that we track. For one company, there was growth pretty much non-existent or very low. So the first thought from the investment team is, of course, or from the operations team and finance team as well, is of course what's wrong there. We allocated some capital on it. Should we think about it? Should we think about really doing a follow-on round to invest more money and increasing our risk position there in this company? So we asked ourselves, is the product market fit there, right? It's an easy conclusion if there is no growth, of course. And we believed in the product and we believed in the market, so we focused on analyzing sales, not the sales teams or the efficiency in more the efficiency of the sales team. So we took the sales pipeline, included looking at the conversion rates and sales velocity, which is quite simple in general, right? So you would believe there should be a good sales cycle analysis in the startups, but I think a lot of sales team even don't manage themselves with KPIs like this. And this gave us quite an interesting view, and as I said in the beginning, it changed our mind. So we saw the company is able to move big deals, a good sales pipeline quite fast through the sales cycle. It just didn't come to the closing at the end, right, of the deals. So we changed from thinking about allocating more capital or doing follow-on rounds to do an early follow-on round, because we believed the revenue growth will come, which was after analyzing the sales pipeline was a good decision nowadays, if we look back. So that's where keeping it simple, maybe on the monthly tracking for growth rates in recurring revenue is good, and it's of course also good to look at churn, contraction, and the composition of the deltas of recurring revenue, and also new and upsell MRR, of course. And but we now look at the sales pipeline quite a lot. If we have some impressions through the metrics of growth, we include sales pipeline analysis for all the big potential companies in our portfolio. So it was quite a good change and also an improvement in analysis for the next several years. So it's a simple example, right? But it's an important one, and it makes you make good decisions afterwards. Yeah.
So Eric mentioned a lot of the KPIs, but Sarah, what are the metrics that matter, and how do you ensure that these metrics align with stakeholders' expectations and drive meaningful conversations?
Yeah, I think we track lots and lots of metrics and have lots and lots of data, and sometimes you deal with information overload. So, you know, people are busy, LPs are very busy, they want something easy, digestible to understand. And I think recently, especially venture in general and post-COVID, you know, there's always been revenue growth at any cost previously, I think it was. Just grow the company, they'll raise the next round, valuations aren't a problem, the capital is flooding the market, it's great. And I think that hasn't been the case post-COVID. I think as well as revenue growth now, it's capital efficiency and getting to break even is, you know, at the top of everybody's tongue right now. So what we, you know, one metric that's kind of easy to explain and easy to look at and can be comparable across companies is something like the Rule of 40, which measures revenue growth, but also rate of profit or loss. I mean, the goal is not for seed stage companies to be at 40%. That's when you're close to IPO, but it does show a track, or you want to see progress on that. So that is something that I think is easy to explain and digestible, and is a core focus. It kind of drills it all down. So you can look at 20 different metrics, but if you just look at the Rule of 40, it can tell a simple story. And it could also be, you know, it's also easy to benchmark across companies and stages. It's also something we use with our portfolio companies to explain to them how we feel they're going, how they're, you know, if they need to be more efficient, or if, you know, the revenue growth's not benchmarking against across our portfolio at the stage of revenue we'd expect them to see. So yeah, that's one useful metric right now that we are focusing on.
Great, and what are the challenges actually when communicating data insights to stakeholders, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think challenges can be, you know, the time that, you know, the timeline of a fund can be difficult. You know, people put in their money, and it's, as I mentioned earlier, it can be 10 years or longer. So I think the challenges are explaining to them, you know, the fund is progressing, the valuations will get there. You know, we like to be relatively conservative. I think someone touched on this in an earlier panel of, you know, it's difficult to, you know, increase valuations without external validation or a new round. But nonetheless, companies are making the progress. And I think also, you know, so LPs like to hear the stories as well. Data is great, but they also like to hear the stories of the companies. So we like to bring them on a journey a little bit. Sometimes we'll highlight different companies or bring in the specific CEO to, you know, give a face to a name rather than just a plain, you know, quarterly report with lots of data. Or also, I think visuals can work amazingly. Showing a graph of progression is worth 10 pages of data. So I think visuals, keeping it smart, keeping it relevant, and keeping it relatively short. Okay,
Eric, what lessons did you learn from your experience?
Maybe I can add another challenge, because I think it's awesome that it was mentioned today a couple of times that decisions are made by humans, right? And I think it's a huge challenge not to forget that this still will be the case in the future, at least in the nearest future, if you're not trying to get to involve into a quant VC, as we've heard it today. So everything in the space of augmented VC, I think Andre mentioned in the beginning today, is driven by humans, and it's humans make the decisions, and humans, we all do have emotions, and beforehand it was mentioned something like fighting with your girlfriend and then doing a decision. I don't mean it like that. Doing decisions out of emotions. I mean it like if you look at a report as a human, you have a certain attention span. You need storytelling as a VC to improve that attention span and keeping the reader alive and transporting those insights. And I think that's a huge challenge, and it will stay a challenge for everybody. So all this storytelling stuff with keeping it short, simplify, visualize, contextualize, which is quite a big topic to keep the reader alive and doing the right decisions. I think that's a huge challenge.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, maybe I have two more small challenges that at least we have encountered in the last couple of years. You know, the first one with the popularity of VC asset class and more investors investing into this asset class. I think the challenge, at least for the upcoming years, will be also knowledge transfer and knowledge sharing, because some of these first-time LPs or somebody who hasn't been investing into funds, or they have been investing into different kind of funds, they have vastly different needs, wants, and some of these are not really relevant for the funds or for the other stakeholders in the market. So I think the challenge in the upcoming years will be definitely like coming to some kind of unified understanding of what should be done from both sides, whether that being the GPs or the LPs. And the second challenge I wanted to speak about was standing out, because like my co-speakers correctly said, it's about not keeping it bullshit, about keeping it simple, about transferring the right knowledge to or crafting the right narrative. But on the other hand, whether the stakeholders being other investors, whether that being portcos, whether that being LPs, everybody is bombarded by the same messages over and over and over and over again. And even though you give them what they want, what they need, and it's super relevant, it's really hard to stand out, right? And I think this is the challenge, to create something also unique. It doesn't need to be unique every single time, but to keep it fresh, and to keep it fresh for the duration of the fund or for the duration of the relationship.
Yeah, I can say anything else. Storytelling is important. It's in the name of our company. But let's not forget why we're here. And the last question to Adam from the traditional ones that we have is about data. How do you integrate internal portfolio data with external market data to provide a comprehensive view for the stakeholders?
So I think my answer will be a little bit shorter in this regard, but we do it in a two-way process. The first one, and that's purely from the practical standpoint, we combined it on the channel/form basis. So for each type of communication we have, we combine it in a kind of different manner. Like simple advantage or the basis of it is all of the data is unified and stored in one point of access, and we take it like both the external data and both the internal data. And for each of the kind of communication or the document or presentation or reporting we do, it's obviously differs. So we do it on the kind of individual basis. But on the side, we are in process of creating a portal for all stakeholders, but mainly for portfolio companies and mainly for LPs. And that way they will be able to access also everything from a single point of contact rather than being bombarded by many different communication channels.
Eric, Sarah, do you want to mention anything else on this question, or we should proceed with the next one? Great. So we talked a bit in our conversation before the panel about the predictive analytics. So how are you leveraging, and do you leveraging predictive analytics to provide forward-looking insight to stakeholders? And how do you present this data to manage expectations? Eric, maybe we can start with you here.
Yes, I think if anyone has a tool that can predict a success after today, I'm pretty happy to have a talk afterwards. So I think it's a huge challenge to have a predictive analysis. And of course, the first or one of the first areas where you can try it out is financial forecasting. Everyone tries it, and every academic tries it to financial forecast stocks, right? Where you have public data. So I think it's a huge challenge to get in all this data we heard about today, and doing some kind of predictive analysis, even for financial forecasting. If you look at the volatility of some startups, it becomes pretty much difficult to say anything about the financial success of the startups. And it was also mentioned today that there are so many factors and so many significant drivers of success. So combining all these factors and having a model that is good in its prediction, I think it's quite a challenge. And then I think personally, if somebody shows that and has that, and we heard it from Early Bird today, with probably a good model, you have to be a VC that is possible also to being able to invest if you want to, right? The startup, you have to convince the startup as well, at least from our experience as a smaller VC, if your name is not Sequoia or something. You can't always make the decisions you really want to. So then that's where the human interaction comes in again, and where your network comes in again. So I think predictive analytics is really hard to, really difficult to implement and to use.
Sarah, Adam, do you agree with Eric on this?
Yeah, likewise. Unfortunately, the wizardry involved in predictive analysis is still to be uncovered. I think, unfortunately, the nature of it is a lot of the information we deal with is static, and we try to be forward-looking, but to make predictions is just so crazy, particularly with, the geopolitical, no one predicted, or very few predicted a few years ago, a war in Europe, which has now opened up defense tech, and now that's a whole new sector and something we're actually looking at. But I mean, the predictions out there, I don't think were very high for that. Similarly with COVID, which brought on all the working from home, and all of that became a new trend that was maybe was a little bit predicted, but came 10 years sooner than anyone had realized. So we'll keep trying, and we keep predicting, and we do modeling and everything, but to be accurate, I mean, it's a little bit like when we, we're on the flip side of when we look at portfolio companies or investing, would they always model out? And we look at financial models for 3 to 5 years. I think if you go back to your investment case 5 years after an investment, I think it's very rare that they will have predicted correctly the trajectory for good or bad. So we'll keep trying, keep iterating, but for now it's a little unknown.
Yeah, also agree for us that we have some predictive models. We are trying to forecast of on the portfolio level, on the fund level, but also on the market level. But yeah, nothing that you could call a true predictive analytics model.
Great. I can predict the questions from the audience, so let's try to ask them as well. Starting with the first one, what is the way you share reports with your LPs? Any suggested platform you use? Who wants to start here?
Oh, I can start. So we do it in a two-way structure currently. First one is for our LPs of Fund 1, we have a single LP, so it's kind of easier this way. And it's even more easier because they gave us a template to share. So that way we are just sharing it via email. But for our Fund 2, and what I also mentioned previously, our push for building a LP portal, we want to share it via our own LP portal. And what we also do on the side is doing many SPV deals, and those deals have different type of reporting. But again, like we share this information via either more informal means, because like these LPs who are investing with us, we have personal relationships with them. So it's again either some traditional channels as email or via WhatsApp or whatever they kind of prefer.
Yes, single LP is quite a good word. For us, it's the same. We are quite happy with using Power BI, yeah, and looking for tools who do have an interface to Power BI is for us crucial, and as well it's the same for Excel. Yeah. I know the name is not, everyone is not happy to hear the name of Excel again and all the time, but it is the way it is. Yeah? It keeps.
It's in the cards.
It keeps you flexible. And if you have tools that do have interfaces to both of them, I think you're quite well set up, which are not a lot of the tools on the market.
Great.
We've got quite a few LPs actually, so a few more investor relations issues. But no, I mean, we share it over email. We have our administrators have a portal that we upload everything onto, so investors can also access it that way, and they have direct access to all our partners and to all of us. But for the regular reporting, it's just sent out over email. And to prepare that, we also do use Vesperi and other tools out there, but the actual sending out of the report is simply.
Great. So, how many pages, slides do your reports have? Do you build individual reports for investors based on their needs? Sarah, you have a lot of LPs and investors.
No, we try to keep it standard. So we follow Invest Europe guidelines, so it's pretty standard. It's quite a lot of pages. It seems to get longer, not shorter. But no, we do 1 page per each portfolio company, just giving static information like time of investment, who the company is, what they do. But then we also add in quarterly information on their revenue growth. We have 8 KPIs we report on. We also give qualitative updates on anything important that's happened in the quarter. And then we give a little valuation update on any change in valuation that has occurred. And then we also do on a fund level the whole, the NAV of the fund, the TVPI. We do a little executive summary where we try to drill down to. So it's 1 or 2 pages, because if you don't want to read 30 pages, it helps a little bit. And you can just read the first 2 pages, and we'll have all the key metrics there as well. So we try to keep it simple. And then outside that, of course, if LPs like EIF have certain criteria and certain forms they want it in, so we're always happy to do that. And then we're always happy to update LPs informally, or if they have specific question, that's never a problem.
Adam, from 0 to 100, how many pages you have?
Yeah, so I just have to agree with Sarah that for our Fund 1, it's a Invest Europe guideline style quarterly report, so there is not that much that you can actually adjust. I mean, of course, content-wise, you can play around with it a little bit, but in regards to the structure, I would say it's pretty set. But then again, we also have like the Slovak Fund of Funds called Slovak Investment Holding as the LP through the AIF for managing their money. And they have these additional kind of requirements that they want us to report on too, and those are also like more free form, or they give us a guideline of what they want to see. But generally speaking, like the report we do, like the quarterly one, it has, 40, 50 pages, sometimes even more, so it's really tedious to put in together every quarter. But we have already figured out ways how to streamline it, automate most of it. And like when we started, it took us, 2-3 days to put everything together, because we were super Excel power users back then and more traditional financial VCs. But right now, this report takes approximately half a day at maximum.
Okay, Eric, besides reports and Excels, do you have recurring meetings with your stakeholders to walk them to the progress?
Yes, our MD has a quarterly meeting while having a look at the reports, on the quarterly reports. It's quite different than the usual Invest Europe standard, because we are totally focused, of course, on the need of our corporate in the quarterly reporting, and try to focus on the key metrics in this, because it gives us the license to operate, if you want so. Reporting directly to the CFO of EnBW, so those dialogues or meetings are quite interesting. We do have monthly meetings with the decision body, which is called Investment Committee at ours, where also monthly metrics, a lot of qualitative data, high lowlights of the portfolio are discussed, or there is room to discuss if needed. So we as an operations team are and as well together with our head of operations Inga and our MD Crispin, we are quite close with the stakeholders as well as the investment team and the operations team. I think that's a big challenge and totally crucial to value each other and reporting metrics also in this direction and getting the investment team or educating the investment team why is it important to fill out some stuff or use those metrics and vice versa. Hearing from the investment team which metrics are important for them and which reports are important for them. So we are quite close, which is pretty easy for this size of a company, right?
Great, thank you. Now we have an advertising announcement with a like, Westbury. Thank you for that. So, can each of you mention your current tech stack?
Yeah, happy to. We use Vesperi, so happy to free advertise. Yeah, actually Vesperi's been really good for us. I think previously we had been guilty of the Excel. So Vesperi has been really
Excellent.
good. Yeah, and also it's kind of, we still use Excel, but also Vesperi can help us with our reporting as well, which has been really great. We also use Affinity for CRMs. We look at various sourcing tools. I think the deal team are yet to really find one that has found many unicorns, but we still keep trying on them. And we've used PitchBook in the past. We've used Comparables AI for public valuations. I'm trying to think what else. I'm not sure you guys use.
Eric, Adam?
As I said, we use Power BI a lot. We use a CRM since the beginning of our fund, which makes it quite, or which brings us to a quite good database now. If you use a CRM since the beginning. And we are also intensely looking at reporting tools and thinking about changing from a small German provider to another one.
Okay, for us, so Westbury power users since 2020, so shout out to them. But I would say right now we are more tech stack light. So we are trying to do the most we can with Notion and then connecting other productivity tools where we can. Some of them can be joined and integrated within Notion, some of them can't, and then we're just connecting the information and trying to store everything in Notion. But for us, the thesis was pretty simple why we are tech stack light right now. The cause of this is because 2022, we drank the data-driven Kool-Aid. And as we were finishing our Fund 1 and going and preparing for fundraising of our Fund 2, we wanted to make it super data-driven. We got together a CTO, some other tech people. We wanted to map out all of the processes that the fund will ever have, all of the data points, and we wanted to create something super custom, super cool. And we found out this was absolutely not needed for the time. So we went back to the basics. We figured out how to best do our job as a VC via which kind of process is important, how to make these processes better. And on top of it, right now, we are trying to make these processes better. And that also involves creating our own tech stack. But for the need we had now, we just didn't need anything more complex.
Okay, and do you need gamification? Because this is the next question. Does any of you use some kind of gamification to engage LPs and portfolio companies and motivate them to share information and data?
If you want to call it gamification, internally reporting, we use again Power BI because of the ability to set filters, right, and changing the time periods of the data and having those mouse over the data points where you can look at the growth rates year on year, month on month, and stuff like that. So I think it's quite helpful to have something, at least if it's gamification, it might be questioned, but at least some engaging stuff, which I think will also increase in the future, hopefully, if you can board on your LPs, your internal guys, with fewer accounts in tools where they can play around on themselves, would be the ideal situation, right?
Great. And what about scoring system? Do you have a portfolio scoring system for your LPs to present your companies from the best to worst performing? If so, what is it?
I'll continue right away. We do have a scoring system, and we call it cluster, where we are clustering our portfolio in, if you want, so at the moment in time, high potential company to low potential company, and we use qualitative data points, or we quantify qualitative data points with scoring systems for evaluating strengths of teams at a startup, or the current market conditions, and a lot of more data points. But of course, I can't get into too much detail here. But we do cluster our companies, and we of course also try to focus on the good potential companies, and spending our time also as finance manager, spending our time on the companies with big potential and getting into talks with the CFOs and all the other guys at the company. So, yep.
Sarah, Adam, do you have a scoring system?
Yeah, definitely we do. This is something we do on a quarterly basis. So we have this scoring system that takes multiple different data points and data sources, ranging from, let's say, company level reporting that we take from Westbury. Then we have qualitative assessment. Then we take in other market data about how the markets are performing, how other sectors are performing. What goes into it is also our exit outlook. There is also subjective opinion of the board supervisor or board member who works with the company, and many others. And out of this, we get this arbitrary number. That's the score for the company for the given period. The number itself means basically almost nothing. What it just means in relation to the other companies is how much time you should spend with them. And what also goes into it is, of course, our exposures, how the fair value of the company evolves, and many others. But yeah, the main outcome is about where we should spend our time and energy, and how we present it to LPs. Then we don't present this arbitrary number. Rather, we have some, let's say, 4-level assessment whether something is performing, semi-performing, outperforming, and so on. And we give usually some reasons why this is the rating we are giving the company. So basically, for the LPs, we really simplify it.
Great, thank you. Because we have 3 more minutes, Sarah, any ideas on how to, at least partially, automate LP requests given the largely custom nature of these requests?
Good question. I think it depends on the nature of the LP request. If they're simply asking for KPIs, then that's quite easy to automate. But if they're asking for something like an exit prediction or an analysis, then you're into troubled water a little bit, I think. So I think it's leveraging what you have to, and also, to be honest, automating LP requests, it's fine from a data point, but you also need the human element there. Like Adam mentioned, the whole point of investing is a little bit personal. They're entrusting their money and their patience with you. So I think you can over automate. I think if we just sent them an AI chatbot response to their request, I think that would be horrendous, and I don't think that's what they want. So it's also being careful about your data and what you automate, to the conversations earlier of, yes, you can automate stuff, but should you automate an LP request? I'm not sure that's a good use of resources.
Thank you. And our last question for the session, how do you utilize your portfolio data for fundraising purposes? Who wants to be the last one?
It's irrelevant for us, so keep passing the mic.
Adam, is it relevant for you?
Yeah, definitely. We are heavily utilizing this portfolio data for our fundraising, and it's definitely a cornerstone of how you build the narrative. The narrative can't be just some qualitative data and can't be just some story. It can't be just relationship. It also, ideally, if you have a previous fund, it needs to be supported by the portfolio data you collect. And then, of course, it depends on what you want to show, whether it's the evolution of the fair value, whether it's the rule of 40, whatever that may be. But it's definitely, as you move along the funds, you have to simply present this data, and it has to be part of the story you are creating and you are sharing.
So thank you very much, Sarah. If you want to mention
that's fine.
something.
I think the data doesn't lie, so I think it becomes very obvious when you're raising fund 2, 3, and 4 of what's happened. So yeah, it can be crucial.
Great, thank you very much. And yeah, I hope the conversation will start after the next talk in the networking session. Thank you.